Welcome back, everyone. As usual, we are two dudes talking 80s. I'm John. That's my partner in crime, Lewis,
Hello.
who's already got a case of the giggles. And I forgot I was supposed to have an alcoholic beverage for this.
Yes.
Damn it. I forgot. I only have a Diet Coke. That's horrible. I know you have to work, so I know you wouldn't be. Do you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, Christmas was pretty decent. It was chill. I had to work, just like I have to work on New Year's. But Christmas Eve was nice and just family friends and family and Christmas evening was also nice. It was just Lulu and I. So it was good. Yourself?
Can't complain. Everyone was happy, healthy, had a beautiful time. Went over to my son's place with his girlfriend, and yeah, it was a beautiful time. And I'm kind of glad it's over, though. I'm glad, I always kind of look forward to some sense of normalcy. And I feel like the time between Christmas and New Year's Eve, there's not a lot of normalcy. But anyway, we can use that because this is going to be our last episode of 2023, and it's going to premiere on, you know, on New Year's Eve. Well, actually, the morning of New Year's Eve. So we thought it was only appropriate that we talk about a movie that New Year's Eve is very prominent. And we don't talk a lot about these movies, romantic comedies, because, we're not in touch with our feelings. We're manly men. And in this case, yeah, in this case, we're going to be talking about 1989 When Harry Met Sally, of course, starring Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan. I was I was talking to my wife while we were walking the dog earlier, and I was trying to think when the term rom-com started to become prominent because I don't remember like, for example, Valley Girl. I don't remember anybody saying anything about Valley Girl being a romantic comedy or a rom-com. But it seemed like kind of like the late 80s, early 90s, especially with Julia Roberts, kind of rom-com became part of the cultural landscape, and it seemed like every movie was a rom-com. Do you remember when you think what was the first one? I think When Harry Met Sally might have been one of the first ones I remember if it was called a rom-com, but it seems like that probably would have been around the point it started.
The term rom-com itself, the first time I've heard it was maybe 30 seconds ago when it came out of your mouth. I've never actually heard anything referred to as rom-com. Romantic comedy, of course, but rom-com, no. So I might be the wrong person to ask.
You're definitely the wrong. You've never heard rom-com?
I haven't.
Okay, so full disclosure, I have forced Lewis to go to see a romantic comedy or two with me in the past, and he went begrudgingly. I didn't make him hold my hand or anything, or even share my popcorn, but we did go. Um, I've always enjoyed romantic comedies when they started being called that. I love a lot of the Hugh Grant movies of the 90s and music and lyrics and things like that. Even saw a new one recently called Anyone But You, I think it was called, with Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. Really good movie, a lot of fun. Kind of a throwback to that era of rom coms, which you just heard about. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about When Harry Met Sally. Um, and you, once again, surprising me, you said the other day that you had never seen this movie in full, and you just finally watched it yesterday. So, what was your impression of somebody just seeing it for the first time?
So again, I'd seen bits and pieces of it, on YouTube and Instagram and whatnot. But you're right. This is the first time that I went from beginning to end, and I thought it was fantastic, man. I loved Billy Crystal's character. He just played it so well, and he had me cracking up. He was amazing.
Yeah, the thing I liked about this movie is, a lot of romantic comedies are the big, like, oh, they meet and it's an instant thing, and they fall in love right away and happily ever after. This one took a while. They didn't get together for quite some time, and it seemed very realistic that a relationship could happen the way this one did.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
All right. So, having just seen this movie, was there any particular scene you really enjoyed?
I really like Billy Crystal's character, Harry Burns, at the very beginning. Just how he was sort of this had this darker side to him, but it was just really tinged with a lot of humor. Uh, uh, he is the one thing that really stood out from that. Of course, Meg Ryan's scene, which we can talk about later, which everybody's familiar with, I'm sure. But um, another part that stuck with me was the fact that Meg Ryan had underwear that went from Monday to Saturday, and they didn't make Sundays because it was a Sunday. They didn't want to offend God.
Yes, and we can all appreciate that. I don't know if that's true or not. I've never looked for underwear the days of the week, but I gotta say the one scene that always cracks me up, and it's just I could see it a million times, and I'd probably laugh a million times, is when they first meet and they start driving to New York, and he starts eating the grapes, and he goes to spit the grapes out the window, and he roll down the window. I died on that one. I love that scene.
That was absolutely classic. And that he had the window rolled up and whatnot and spat on the window. Uh, yeah, again, just the beginning of that just really his character just sold the whole thing. Meg Ryan was great in it as well. But yeah, his character just had me tied up in knots. I'm trying to think of other lines that stuck with me, and they're not coming to my head so far.
Well, it's funny because that a lot of that in the beginning of the movie, including the grapes, was Billy Crystal. He was trying to make him a little harder edged character in the beginning and show him softening over time. So a lot of that, the stuff you saw in the beginning, was things that Billy Crystal had created. And it's funny now you look back at it and you think about Meg Ryan. You think about what a superstar she was, but she had never been a lead in a movie until this movie. She's
Really,
probably best known at that time for being Goose's wife in Top Gun.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that that was her first starring role. She was great in it. I mean, the way that she started off, I mean, both of them did this, right? Where they started off as being in college and she really portrayed, of herself as being this sort of more on the naive side of a personality. And then as things progressed, when they met, again in the airport, and she was I can't remember who it was that she was dating at that time, was some sort of an attorney. Very different, right? I noticed very different acting there, and just fit right into it. They both did just really, really well.
So a little bit of trivia. The guy that she was dating in the airport was the son of Gerald Ford.
Really?
Yeah, so thought I'd
That's
throw that
that's
out there.
interesting. Where'd you dig that up?
I did my research.
Very
You gotta
nice.
find this stuff.
Very nice.
Before we start talking, going back to the movie, I've got to say this. You talk about a lot of directors like Christopher Nolan, great director in this day and age, and Scorsese and everything else. Can we give some credit to Rob Reiner? Rob Reiner, listen to what he did in the 80s. This was just the 80s. This is Spinal Tap, The Sure Thing, Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, and When Harry Met Sally.
Wow.
Boom. Like there is not a dud in that bunch. And then he went into the 90s and he did Misery and A Few Good Men. What a great director. I mean, this is a guy we grew up with as Meathead from All in the Family, and this is what he accomplished. My God, what a in the 80s. I don't know if anyone, you could say Spielberg, but Spielberg had some misses in the 80s. I think you look at that list that I just gave you, and there is not a dud in the bunch. I would, like this, I would be hard pressed to pick, like to rank those movies in order of what I thought was from best to worst. Because man, I love all those movies.
Yeah, that's a really good call out because like you just mentioned, the first introduction that we had to him as old guys was him as Meathead, on All in the Family. And he played an okay, actor, comedian, comic relief guy. But yeah, no one, I would have never predicted that he would have gone on to be such an astounding director. And yeah, it's interesting. I didn't know that he did half of those movies. So yeah, kudos to him. Amazing.
Just for This Is Spinal Tap, he should be in the Hall of Fame. But it's
100%, man.
funny, and I don't know if you caught this. You remember Billy Crystal's character Harry, how he said he's dark and he always reads the last page of the book in case he dies. He knows how it's going to end.
Yes.
What book do they show him reading?
I didn't notice.
He's reading Misery,
Get
which is
out of
the
here.
next movie that Rob Reiner directed.
Oh, that's hilarious, man.
So anyway, you brought this up earlier, and we got to talk about it. You said the Meg Ryan scene that everyone's seen. Why don't you tell us what you're referring to, sir?
So they walk into a diner, they being Sally and Harry, and they sit down and have, I guess, lunch. And they have this discussion about uh, Harry Burns is saying that, any woman that he's been with, it's never been a faked orgasm. And he said that he just knows that there's no way that somebody could be that convincing to fake an orgasm. And maybe 2 or 3 seconds later, Meg Ryan starts and she does this whole montage of build up and, actually achieving orgasm. And in the middle of this diner, and just amazing, man. A great acting and hilarious, absolutely hilarious. And the old lady at the end where she says, "Yeah, I'll have some of what she's having over there." Very, very cool. Very, very cool scene. And again, that's probably the scene that people remember from that movie.
So, a couple things about that. Do you know who the lady is that says "I'll have what she's having"?
I don't.
Rob Reiner's mother.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. So, it's actually not a diner; it's a deli,
Okay.
and it's a deli. It's called Katz Deli, Katz, in New York. I've actually been there, and Katz Deli is kind of like, how in Philly they are always arguing over who has the best cheesesteak. Katz Deli is always in the discussion for who has the best pastrami sandwich.
Oh, it's that
And
place.
yes. And so I was there, God, I was there in 2019. I don't know if it's changed, but you go to the counter, and the guy would be standing there, and like you kind of tell him what you wanted, and you'd be like, "Oh, give me I want a pastrami, well done, but lean," is that's how I ordered it. And he just starts cutting it up right in front of you and chopping it up. He throws a little on a plate, goes, "Here, try that," and it just melted in my mouth. It was amazing. And I said, "That will do, sir. That will do." And they give you your sandwich, which is humongous. My son and I ate those sandwiches probably around 11 in the morning. We didn't eat the rest of the day. We were
Wow.
full. Those things, and the sandwich was about $25. But I will tell you, without question, it was absolutely worth it. Then it's crazy. They just give you a receipt and you have to walk out and you pay on the way out. And if you lose the receipt, you're kind of screwed. Like, I forgot how they were going to charge you, not knowing what you had with the receipt. Luckily, I didn't lose it, and it was cash only. But man,
Wow.
it was so good. I've got, applause to Cat's Deli, and they have a sign over that table where it says I'll have what she's having. So you can actually sit at the very table still well, at least in 2019, but I'm sure it hasn't changed. In that very same table for when Harry met Sally. So if you're ever in New York, Cat's Deli, oh my God, best pastrami sandwich ever.
Very, very cool, man.
I
Very
want
cool.
a pastrami sandwich, damn it.
Let me ask you this, John. Carrie Fisher was in the movie. What did you think of her acting? Did you have the hard time with her playing the role that she was playing?
Huh, interesting. And I did rewatch it yesterday as well. I hadn't seen it in a bit, so I did rewatch, but I saw it when it actually came out. So I was very familiar with it. I've seen this movie many times. I don't know. I didn't have a problem with her. I didn't really, it's just kind of like whatever. Um, and I thought Bruno Kirby, who played Harry's best friend, was better. But I didn't think he was, again, extremely significant to the storyline either. I mean, he was there kind of as a sounding board. So yeah, I don't, I kind of was indifferent. Like they didn't really rub me the wrong way, but it wasn't like I was like, wow, it's like sometimes those secondary characters come along and they just blow you away, and I didn't feel that with either of them either.
Nice. I had a hard time not seeing her as Princess Leia, and it took me a little bit of effort to try and separate that, and I was able to do it towards maybe let's say the last 75% of the movie. So the first 25% I was having a hard time with it. But yeah, every time I kept seeing her, it's like, oh, that's Princess Leia. What's she doing here?
Okay, so it wasn't her performance for you. It's just the fact that you so identify her with that role.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I get it. It's kind of funny too, because like Han Solo or Harrison Ford, I'm sorry. I had him so entrenched in my mind as Han Solo, but when I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, man, the first showing, like the first scene, okay, he's Indiana Jones. Like it was not hard for me to separate him from, the Han Solo character. He just embodied another role. So interesting. I never really thought about that. I think for me, enough time had passed where it wasn't really significant, but
Hmm.
and credit to Meg Ryan because it was her idea to do the fake orgasm. I
Oh,
think from
really?
what I read initially, um, it was going to be simply a discussion, and she decided, well, how about we try this? And it must not have been easy to be in a deli like that. Even though it's extras and everything else, but to put yourself out there like that, that must not have been easy.
Definitely not, man. That took some cojones, and but again, she nailed it, man. And that's the iconic scene, right?
It is. I don't have a drink. Couple other things is Tom Hanks was supposed to originally be Harry.
Really?
Yeah, and from what I read, Tom Hanks was going through a divorce at the time and just wanted to have nothing to do with this happily ever after kind of thing because he wasn't feeling it. And I forgot who else they had mentioned, but Tom Hanks was considered, and one of the ones that they were considering for the female lead was Molly Ringwald.
Huh.
Yeah,
Hard to
so
picture.
yeah, it's hard to picture too, but I mean, I think for a while it was difficult for them to give this role to Meg Ryan because, like I said, that wasn't anything that she had ever been kind of the top billing, and I think probably what's helped her too was they said they put her with Billy Crystal and they had that instant chemistry. Like you see sometimes you go see these movies, those rom-coms, and you see actors that don't have any chemistry, and it just destroys the movie. So going off topic though, staying the same thing. So let me ask you, Lou. I gotta ask this question now. You think a woman's ever faked it with you?
Oh God, I hope not. But after Meg's performance, hey man, that all bets are off.
It's funny because I don't remember who I had this discussion with shortly after the movie came out, and she had seen it as well, and she brought that up to me, and we had never been together sexually, so I was more of a friend. And she brought that up to me, and I looked at her and I was like, okay. I said, and if she did, whose fault is that? She's like, excuse me. I said, so I'm with somebody that doesn't tell me what they enjoy, what, it's like there's not an assembly line. Not everybody's the same person. So that's on them. I had a good time. Kind of like, wow. But it is true though. It's like, hey, if something's not working, communicate. Anyway, but I'm sure nobody's ever faked it with me. Nobody's
Oh
ever.
God, John, you've turned into Dr. Ruth here for a second.
I could give at least maybe Dr. Phil. Why do I have to be Dr. Ruth?
Because she was the sexual therapist of the 80s.
Do you know she's still alive?
Is she really?
Yeah, I was shocked to find out she was still going.
Wow, man.
Yeah, I don't know how old she is, but yeah, Dr. Ruth, good for her. Um, the original ending to this movie was supposed to be depressing.
No way, really.
Yeah. So I think Nora Ephron, who wrote a lot of these rom-coms, and directed them later, I think too. Um, I guess originally they were supposed to just simply go their separate ways. And Nora Ephron and Rob Reiner, who actually were a lot of the inspiration when Harry Met Sally, because they're supposedly really good friends. Um, he was when he was filming this or started to film this, he fell in love. Rob Reiner did, and he kind of changed his opinion on things. And much like Tom Hanks didn't want to do this because he was getting divorced, Rob Reiner is falling in love, and he thought the characters deserved a happy ending. So that's why he came back to let's give them a happy ending.
That's really good, man, because that's one of the things I enjoyed so much about it is it's this ride, throughout the movie, and it was really, really cool, and it's very touching. It pulls at your heartstrings at the very end when they, actually get together and they become one of the happy married couples that's sort of interviewed throughout the movie. So that's really cool. That would have been a real downer if they hadn't ended on that happy note.
Well, going back to favorite scenes, going back, um, I love the Pictionary scene.
Baby talk.
No, baby fish mouth.
Oh God, that was hilarious. Yeah, that was awesome.
So apparently that whole thing was improvised.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So Rob Reiner just, had told Meg Ryan, "Hey, we're playing Pictionary and it's baby talk," and they just went with it. So where he's like, but baby fish mouth is in the cultural, lexicon or whatever the line was so fantastic and all improvised.
You just reminded me, John, of another line that I thought was pretty amazing. It reminded me of us for whatever reason. Where Harry is talking to Sally and saying, "Oh, well, maybe the reason is you've never had good sex." And she's like, "I've had good sex." And he says, "With who?" "Oh, with Sheldon." And then he starts going off and going, "Sheldon, that you can't have good sex with a guy named Sheldon." And later he refers to him as Sheldon the Schlong. Oh God, I died when I heard that.
I don't know why that reminds you of me and you, but okay, we're gonna move on to this. Um, so since this is gonna come out on New Year's Eve, they actually have two New Year's Eve scenes in this one, if I counted correctly. One was kind of the awkward kiss at midnight, that really didn't lead anywhere, where they seemed really happy. And by the way, Meg Ryan is absolutely stunning in that first scene, the first New Year's Eve scene. The second one where they finally come together. Um, for those that haven't seen it, I don't mind spoiling it because it came out in '89. If you haven't seen it by now, what are you waiting for? Um, but for finally, Harry decides that yes, I do love Sally. Runs to where she's at a party, sees her. At first, she's resistant to it, thinking he was just feeling lonely. But then he professes his love, with talking about some of her attributes and the way she orders and the way she crinkles her nose. And then the great line is, when you discover, who you want to spend the rest of your life with, you want the rest of your life to start now. And that's why he ran to her. Do you know most of that was improvised by Billy Crystal, including when you find out when you discover who you want to spend the rest of your life with, you want the rest of your life to start now.
Oh, that's insane, man. Wow.
The crinkle of the nose was another one that was all Billy Crystal, but my God, that big scene, and he improvised it.
Wow, and didn't fumble at all, man. I mean, he just, wow, that's super impressive.
So, did you ever have those big romantic gestures on New Year's Eve that you're willing to talk about?
I can't remember any, John. New Year's Eve. The closest I got was high fiving Willie Brown. That's probably the closest that I got.
Okay, yeah. I, I think I've had some really bad New Year's Eves. It always seemed like this time that was supposed to be this big event, and it just never would live up to it. Like there was so much pressure and expectations. Anyway, of course, when we were younger, now it's like I don't even remember the last time I stayed up till midnight. And it won't be this year either. I can promise you that. Um, I think probably 1999 into 2000 was probably the biggest one for me, just because Nancy and I had gotten engaged. There was so much, we knew that I was moving to LA in 2000. We were going to buy a house, or maybe we had even bought it at that point. I don't remember. Probably not. Um, Beautiful dinner up at the Odyssey and all dressed up. And, then we're like, tomorrow, is there going to be money in our bank accounts? Or is a plane going to crash into our space here? What's going to happen?
Oh,
But at the
Y2K
same,
scare.
yeah, the Y2K, yeah. But I think that was probably it for me. I don't remember many other. I remember some really strange times, but way too many to go into here. Way too many. I'll just say I did wake up one January 1st, sleeping in the back of somebody's pickup truck with icicles in my hair, and yeah, it was bad. But okay, I was just curious if you ever had those big romantic, gestures similar to when Harry met Sally.
If I did, they're obviously not very memorable because they are not coming to me. I can't think of any.
All right, well, um, yeah, I'm trying to think of if I have anything else I want to cover. I love this movie though. It is such an excellent film, and like it introduced you to Meg Ryan. Who I remember the first person that told me about this movie?
Who's
Your
that?
old boss, my old boss, Jim Costello.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I thought I don't know why I remember that, but I remember he used to go like on weekends, and he'd go see two or three movies, in a weekend, and that was his thing. And I
That's
remember him
right.
talking. I don't think he was talking to me about it. I think I just overheard him talking to another coworker and saying how luminous Meg Ryan was in this movie and what a star she's going to be. And she got
Wow.
it pretty much nailed it in regards to that. So good
Yeah,
for him.
that's a trip, man. 'Cause you're right. Movies was like that was his big thing. And I'd
Yeah,
completely forgotten about that.
yeah. Again, it's always amazing what the human mind does remember. And again, there was, I guess, there was even talks about maybe doing a sequel to this, and thankfully they never did. You know,
Yeah, that
but
that that could have ruined the original. I couldn't see them writing another movie like that that would be on par. It would I couldn't see it.
this actually, and this movie actually created another romantic comedy. Last little bit of trivia: Nora Ephron. Remember the scene in the bookstore?
Yes.
So they that bookstore, shortly after they filmed there, like a Borders moved in close by, and because of the advent of Borders, the bookstore that they filmed When Harry Met Sally in closed down, and that gave Nora Ephron the inspiration for You've Got Mail.
Which then finally paired Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks.
I don't know if that was
Full
the first.
circle.
I don't think it was the first one. Was Sleepless in Seattle the first one that had Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan? They also had
Might
Joe
have.
versus a volcano. I remember that.
Huh. I don't remember what order they came out in. You could be right though.
I think You Got Mail was a little later, but yeah, that became the inspiration. Where it was. Have you ever seen You've Got Mail?
I have seen You've Got Mail.
Okay, yeah, okay.
I
So
think I saw it with you at the theater, if I'm not mistaken.
rom-com night, guys, night out, right on. We're comfortable with it. What the one only thing I see, I mean, other than some of the hairstyles and things, as my dog comes over to see that I'm doing okay. Um, the only thing I really think would be a lot different now if they were to do this movie. Um, it was interesting that none of the people that they talked to, notice all were men, women. They were always the same race.
Huh.
And that's one of the things. That's the only thing I think about this movie. I mean, obviously, styles change. That's one of the things I thought was like, wow, that feels kind of dated. Like, I feel like if this movie came out today, you'd see a lot more interracial couples, same-sex couples, that kind of thing. But I just want to point that out. But still, fantastic rom com. Go see it. If you're a guy, go see it with your buddy. Sit at home, order it up. Trust your manhood. It's okay.
John, it's interesting that you picked that out. Not so much about the well, that's interesting as well. It's all one race, but the fact that you mentioned that, there's not anything really outstandingly 80s about the movie, right? Even though it took place in the 80s. Um, I wanted so bad for the jacket that Billy Crystal was wearing towards the end, where he's running through the streets, and getting ready to go to the New Year's Eve party where Meg Ryan's at. I wanted it so bad for it to be a members only jacket, and I kept looking and was like, "That's got to be a members only jacket," but it wasn't. There's really not very much that you can pick out and go, "Hey, that's 80s."
Yeah, even really the soundtrack. I think Kerry Connick Jr. did most of it. Most of
Right?
it, even older songs. So yeah, it wasn't, like all of a sudden you hear "You Spin Me Round" at, the at a wedding or something like that, or at New Year's Eve. So it really is kind of a timeless movie. You
Yeah.
say maybe some of the hairstyles, whatever, but it's pretty timeless. There's not a lot that seems, like you said, focused on this is an 80s movie.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's an interesting
Uh,
observation. Good call out.
Thank you. Before we end, anything you want to say or add to this?
I'm just really sorry that it took me this long to watch this movie. If you haven't seen this movie, watch it. If you have seen the movie, watch it again. Amazing. Just, I loved this flick. Absolutely loved it.
Good. I'm glad this forces you sometimes into seeing these movies. Um, Too bad we can't do something about Deep Blue Sea, but it wasn't made in the 80s. Do you know that's coming back into theaters
Oh,
next
dear
month?
God. Of course, we'd have to go and watch it. I mean, with the expectation that it's going to be a piece of crap, which it was a piece of crap. But yes, that I'd watch it under that pretense. No, I did not know that it was coming back into theaters.
Go check it out. Go check it out. Anyway, guys, as always, we appreciate you watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Hope everyone has a very safe and memorable, or not so memorable, New Year's Eve. Don't get too crazy. We're too old to be doing that stuff now. We want to see you in 2024, where we'll be back to talk more stuff 80s, and hopefully it'll be an even more greater year for all in 2024. So, Lou, take us out, brother.
Peace out, everyone.
Thank you, guys.